The noose is tightening around Maduro's neck, and it's tightening significantly and really rapidly. So a good and useful way of looking at the geopolitical chessboard in the region is looking at the different countries and the type of governments that they have. Are they left-wing governments or are they right-wing governments? One being sympathetic to the Maduro regime and the other being sympathetic to the United States. Now, Rubio labels three countries, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba, as the axis of tyranny in the Caribbean region. And for those of you who are politically aware, it sounds familiar to the axis of evil label that Bush had in the Middle East. So they have an axis of tyranny label in Latin America. And what we can see is that when you look at the Latin American region, there's certain governments that were sympathetic to Maduro that have recently fell. So look at Bolivia. MAS, which is the socialist government, was recently defeated after 2 decades in power by a center-right candidate or president, and the win was decisive. This happened this year. In Ecuador, Noboa's rise ended dominance by Chavista-aligned ideology. In Chile in 2025, due to rising crime and migration, there has been a huge electoral shift to the right. There will be a new right-wing president. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, or Comrade Gonsalves, lost after 25 years in power. He was one of Maduro's most loyal friends in CARICOM and a key defender of Chavez and Maduro at the OAS for 2 decades. Just a quote, St. Vincent and the Grenadines will not garner much attention internationally. Comrade Ralph consistently ran interference for Chavez and Maduro at the OAS, the Organization of American States. So his defeat was not just local politics, it removed a major diplomatic shield that Maduro relied on. He was replaced by a center-right. So it flipped St. Vincent and the Grenadines from a quiet ally of Maduro, or loud ally of Maduro, to a pro-American politician there. Notwithstanding that, Maduro's remaining allies are a lot weaker. In Honduras, there are new presidential elections coming up. The right is looking a lot stronger there. In Cuba, the regime there is very, very quiet regarding what is going on. They can't do much to help Maduro. In Colombia, the president there is left-wing. He's an ally of Maduro, but he's under significant pressure internally by forces that are more sympathetic to the Americans. You look at Mexico, left-wing government. You look at Brazil, a left-wing government. Their response to American movements against Maduro has been very muted. And these are Maduro's remaining allies. So what we see is all of these little chips, these states, and the governments that are there, the ones that are sympathetic to Maduro, are being replaced by right-wing governments. The ones that still support him, it's still very muted. And this is a massive development. This is this noose tightening around Maduro's neck, if you will. Not only that, but very recently, Trump made an airspace declaration. So he said in a tweet, Venezuelan airspace is closed. It was a sweeping warning to allies, pilots, traffickers, smugglers to avoid Venezuelan airspace. Immediately, you see airlines begin suspending routes. This functionally created a quasi-air blockade. It marks Venezuela as a hostile flight zone and chokes off foreign connectivity and deepens isolation. So this news is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Within hours of the airspace order, US deploys additional Coast Guard cutters in the Caribbean, increase maritime interdiction assets near Venezuelan waters. You have AWACS and surveillance aircraft, increase flight tempo, and the naval posture upgraded to a containment configuration. This is not symbolic. This is a real operational pressure. It has built a physical and political ring around Venezuela, limiting its movements, its diplomacy, and its backdoor channels. And it shows Maduro that the US will enforce the new regional red lines strongly. What also happened is a Trump-Maduro phone call. We call it the squeeze tactic. So Trump and Maduro hold a private call and discuss a possible meeting in the US. The call happens while pressure is at a maximum. It's a classic US strategy. Threat in one hand, so that's the airspace closure, the fall of diplomatic cover by its allies, and military deployment. You have the negotiation carrot in the other, right? The fact that Maduro answered the call tells you everything. He's isolated, he's weakened, and he's running out of options. So there's diplomatic isolation. Losing Conrad Ralph equals losing a major OAS defender. Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile moving away from the left. Petro collapsing in Colombia, on track to shift right in 2026. CARICOM moving cautiously away from Venezuela due to the Guyana crisis. You have the economic isolation, so airspace restrictions, almost zero international connectivity, foreign airlines exiting, sanctions remain intact, oil exports are limited, collapse of external financing from China and Russia. On top of this, you have the military isolation. US presence increases. The surveillance blanket covers Venezuela, air and sea. Venezuela has no ability to project force regionally, and the region is diplomatically unwilling to back Caracas. All of this is backed up by some military assets here. You have a carrier strike group, the USS Gerald R. Ford, stationed in the Caribbean, essentially establishes air dominance over the entire basin. It can launch F-35Cs and F-A-18 sorties for precision strikes on air bases, radar sites, missile batteries. It is suppressing Venezuelan air defenses. There's combat air patrols to deny Venezuelan jets access to the sea. It allows the provision of 24/7 intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance using onboard aircraft. Launches electronic warfare missions to blind and jam Venezuelan communications. It enables deep strikes without needing landing bases, making retaliation almost impossible. The carrier is the center of gravity. It can break the Venezuelan military's ability to operate in the air within a day. The US also has amphibious forces. So the USS Iwo Jima plus the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit can conduct amphibious raids on coastal radar or missile sites, insert Marines behind enemy lines using Ospreys or helicopters, some of which are in Trinidad, secure offshore islands, ports, refineries, or key terrain. It can establish temporary beachheads for humanitarian or strategic purposes and provide drone reconnaissance over coastal regions. If needed, Marines can move fast, hit hard, and seize strategic points before Venezuela can react. There are also destroyers and submarines. So the destroyers can fire Tomahawk cruise missiles at combat bunkers, air defense sites, naval bases. It provides an anti-air and anti-missile defense for the fleet, hunt Venezuelan submarines or fast attack aircraft, and enforce a maritime exclusion zone. The nuclear submarine can approach the Venezuelan coast undetected, also launch Tomahawks from offshore, and track Venezuelan naval assets or intelligence-capable infrastructure. The bottom line is, destroyers and submarines can cripple Venezuelan military infrastructure without ever being seen. There are also air assets, the F-35Bs, the Harriers, the MQ-9s, the Reapers, the bombers. What these can do is conduct stealth strikes on air bases, radar, missile sites, jam and blind Venezuelan sensors, and detect and eliminate enemy aircraft before they even take off. They can provide close air support for Marines, strike small naval vessels or mobile missile units, track troop movements, convoys, missile sites, conduct precision strikes on high-value targets. They can perform show-of-force runs or strategic strikes, which they've been doing, deliver long-range precision munitions, hit multiple strategic targets in one pass. The US now has full-spectrum air superiority capable within immediate reach of Venezuela. There are also AWACS and tankers and support aircraft. These support aircrafts make US air power continuous and unlimited, while Venezuelan aircraft are limited by fuel maintenance and runway conditions. They're ground forces. These Marines are specialized for short, sharp, precision amphibious operations, not occupation, however. Perfect for limited objective conflict. There's also Coast Guard cutters and patrol assets who have the ability to interdict vessels leaving or entering Venezuela, block oil tankers, armed shipments, or trafficking boats, enforce maritime security zones of Trinidad, Guyana, and Aruba, provide humanitarian rescue if migrants flee. The bottom line is, with these assets, the US has tightened a noose around Venezuela. It cannot do much. Maduro cannot do much. Overall, if conflict broke out tomorrow, the US deployments in the Caribbean would allow immediate air superiority, precision strikes anywhere inside Venezuela, neutralization of coastal defenses, blocking all sea lanes, control of the Caribbean corridor, quick targeted amphibious operations, and diplomatic pressure through presence. The radar being installed in Trinidad and Tobago is widely believed to be a multi-mission system, likely ANTPS-8A Gator, which is not a simple marine traffic radar, but a battlefield-grade radar capable of air and mission surveillance, air defense, and long-range detection. We are in the final act before any potential conflict. The phone call with Maduro likely conveyed to him his options. Either he leaves or he will be taken out.